Coming up right now on Chicago Bears Now, the question burning through Halas Hall and sparking whispers across league circles. Could the Chicago Bears actually trade Braxton Jones before week 1 of the NFL season? It's a bold question, one with layers of nuance, uncertainty, and long-term ramifications for a team that is just beginning to find its footing under a new regime, a new quarterback, and renewed expectations. And we're going to peel back every one of those layers in today's deep dive. But first, on this meaningful Memorial Day, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Whether you or a loved one has served in the military or is currently serving, we appreciate your sacrifice. Truly. We don't take it for granted, and here at Chicago Bears Now, we salute you and your families. And hey, while we're here, if you want to be part of this growing community, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're dropping daily content on everything you need to know about the Bears. News, rumors, breaking updates, and full OTA coverage, including tomorrow when the Bears are back on the practice field and I'm back in the studio bringing you every ounce of what matters. So let's lock in. I'm Harrison Graham, and today we're going to take a long, honest look at this idea, floated recently by Bleacher Report, that Braxton Jones could be a player on the trade block as the Bears gear up for a critical season. Bleacher Report put out an article identifying players across the league who may benefit from a fresh start, and Jones was right there on the list. The logic is layered. Braxton is entering the final year of his rookie contract. He's not fully healthy coming off an injury, and the Bears just used a draft pick on Azzi Trapilo, a move that could signal a shift in long-term planning at the left tackle position. Suddenly, a player who's quietly been a stable piece on an often unstable offensive line is being viewed as potentially expendable. So today, we're going to break this idea down from all sides. We'll walk through the pros, the cons, the implications for the present and the future, and what the Bears truly risk or gain by making a move like this. Let's start with the potential upside. The pros of trading Braxton Jones right now before week 1 are pretty straightforward, but not insignificant. First and foremost, you get something back. If Jones walks in free agency next offseason and doesn't command a huge deal on the market, you're likely looking at a late-round compensatory pick at best. Maybe a 6th, maybe a 7th, and that's assuming he even plays enough snaps to qualify. But if you trade him now, while teams still see starting caliber value in him, especially those desperate for O-line help, maybe you get something better, something you can use in next year's draft to build depth at another need position. And don't forget, the offensive line market has exploded. Even average or slightly below average starters are commanding serious dollars. Look no further than Cam Robinson, who just landed a $14 million deal from the Texans this offseason, despite not being a world beater. If Jones plays well in 2025 and hits the market, he could fetch $15 to $20 million per year. And when you take a step back and look at what the Bears have already done financially across the offensive line, giving Joe Thuney a multi-year extension, investing in Jonah Jackson through 2027, and paying Drew Dalman top dollar to shore up the interior, you start to ask the question, is there room in the budget for Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright? Wright, let's remember, is ascending fast at right tackle and will command $20 to $25 million annually when it's time for a second contract. Realistically, can the Bears afford both long-term? Probably not. So that's the financial side of the equation. It's one thing to invest in the trenches, and I'll always advocate for building from the line out. But there's a difference between smart investment and financial overreach. So if the Bears internally have already decided they won't be extending Braxton Jones, then the logical next step is to consider trade options while his value is still tangible. That's the pro case, and it's valid. But now let's turn the page and talk about the cons, and here's where things get real murky real fast. Because the flip side of trading Braxton is this. Are you sure you're better off without him? We're talking about an offensive tackle who, while not elite, has been steady, reliable, and better than people give him credit for. There's this notion floating around that Braxton Jones is just a replacement-level guy, someone who doesn't move the needle, but the tape, and the data, says otherwise. His PFF grades last year? Solid. A 77 overall, 80 in pass protection, 70 as a run blocker. 5 sacks allowed, 7 penalties. Not perfect, but not disastrous either. He's a middle-of-the-pack starting left tackle, and you can win with those guys, especially when they're still on rookie deals. So why give up on that unless you're absolutely convinced someone else on your roster can replicate or exceed that level of play? And that brings us to the names behind him: Kieran Amagaji and Azzi Trapilo. Now, the Bears like both of these guys. They've praised Trapilo's football IQ, his quick adaptation to the system, and his long-term upside. Amagaji, despite being thrust into action last year earlier than expected, flashed some potential, particularly in the Washington game. But let's not kid ourselves. These are still unproven players. Amagaji is coming out of Yale, a late-round pick who wasn't supposed to see the field in 2024. And when he did, the results were mixed at best. Trapilo hasn't even put pads on yet. We won't know what he really looks like until the bullets start flying in training camp. So trading Braxton Jones before knowing what you truly have in his replacements? That's risky, potentially reckless. Because here's the reality: this is a critical year for the Bears. Not just because of new head coach Ben Johnson, but because it's year 2 for Caleb Williams. These next 2 or 3 years with Williams on his rookie contract are your golden window. This is when you're supposed to stack wins, make playoff pushes, and build a foundation that can last. You cannot afford to punt on this year just because you might have a better option at left tackle. If Braxton is your best lineman at that position, he has to play. Even if you don't plan on extending him, even if you're leaning toward Trapilo or Amagaji long-term, you cannot sabotage Caleb's development just to plan ahead. You don't waste years of a generational quarterback's rookie deal. You maximize them. So unless one of those young tackles clearly outperforms Braxton in camp and preseason, trading him is playing with fire. Now, let's say Trapilo steps up and wins the job. Great, that's progress. But then ask yourself, what if Darnell Wright gets hurt? What if Trapilo gets hurt? Who's your swing tackle? Because if Braxton Jones isn't your starter, he's the best backup tackle in the NFL. And that's not hyperbole. Having a starting caliber left tackle as your insurance policy is a luxury most teams don't have. You give that up, and suddenly your depth disappears. And in this league, linemen get hurt. Every year. Every team. It's inevitable. So giving up your top backup just to squeeze out a day 3 pick? That could backfire spectacularly. And look, even if Bleacher Report's hypothetical package, a 4th and a 7th round pick, sounds intriguing, it's only worth it if you know your in-house options can hold the fort. Otherwise, it's a short-term downgrade for long-term ambiguity. And we haven't even mentioned the wild card yet. What if Braxton isn't 100% off the injury? What if his mobility, which was always a strength of his game, just isn't there? What if the fractured fibula and subsequent ankle surgery left him a half step slower, a little less explosive off the snap? And when you factor in the reality that he was already a marginal anchor in pass sets, even when healthy, the calculus shifts. If the Bears' medical staff and coaching staff see something in OTAs or early camp that suggests Braxton has lost his edge athletically, maybe they move to sell before the rest of the league figures it out. That's a curveball that would explain a trade more than any of the other reasons. Because if Jones can't anchor and no longer has elite lateral movement, his entire value proposition diminishes. He goes from borderline top 20 tackle to backup material real quick. So if that's the case, and only if that's the case, I could see Ryan Poles in the front office making a proactive move to get value while they can. But short of that kind of intel, I'd be extremely cautious about pulling the trigger. Because again, it all comes back to protecting Caleb Williams and maximizing this window. That is the singular focus that should be driving every decision inside Hollis Hall. If Braxton Jones gives you the best chance to keep your franchise quarterback upright, then you ride it out. Even if it's just for 1 year, even if he walks next March. Sometimes, the best moves you make are the ones you don't. So unless Trapilo and Amagaji both show they're ready to step in, not just one, but both, one to start and one to swing, I wouldn't move Jones. And I get it. The idea of a 4th and 7th round pick is tempting. It really is. But if you give up a reliable tackle and Caleb starts taking hits from his blind side because the new guy wasn't ready, those draft picks won't mean much. And if he gets hurt, that's a disaster. So for now, my answer is no. I wouldn't trade Braxton Jones. Not until I've seen the other guys in pads. Not until I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that someone else is clearly better. And even then, I want depth. I want insurance. And unless someone blows me away with an offer, I'm holding. So now I throw it to you. Would you trade Braxton Jones before week 1? Drop a yes or no in the comments, and let's talk about it. Appreciate you guys rocking with me today. Again, happy Memorial Day to all the veterans and families out there. Your sacrifices make what we do here possible. I read every comment, and I appreciate every single one of you. Bear down, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all back in the studio tomorrow.